Hi, my name is Balazs Nemethi, and I'm the founder of Takanu, applying for the fellowship. The whole project started when I was living in Norway and realized that my home country, Hungary, actually built a fence against refugees. I couldn't believe it, and I wanted to do something. I felt like a prisoner of conscience. And I'm definitely not a volunteer type, so I wanted to do something in a business, but I didn't know what. So I was talking a lot with friends, looking around, visited a camp, and realized that the problem of opening a bank account wasn't just only mine moving to Norway, but it's actually an impossible issue for refugees. And it was especially a really big problem because in Norway, it's a cashless society. Everyone has a bank account, and there is no cash in circulation, so everyone has to have one because every service is built on top. So it was a lot bigger problem than in Hungary where I lived before. So I realized that as long as people actually can't have access to finance, they are excluded from society, even if we are talking about inclusion, integration into society, culture, and everything. They can't have a job, they can't pay their own rent, they can't even receive subsidy for the government because they just don't have an account. So I found it very much challenging, and with a bit of naivety, I jumped into the project to let's deliver bank accounts for refugees. That's where it started, and now it grew into the realization, and also the project went into that direction, that the issue is actually in identity and the absence of identity, which these people probably had. They've been someone, they actually had jobs, businesses. It's just they don't have those anymore, and they couldn't prove that they had them. So how do we solve that? And the idea was to create an identity which is not related to any government, not issued by the government. It's purely based on technology. And blockchain offered an opportunity that we can create self-sovereign identities that actually have the ability to give the consent of the data into the hands of the user. So the ownership will be at the hand of the users and not at a non-existent or problematic government. And basically, we are aiming to create a digital ID, which is a blockchain-based self-sovereign digital ID that actually creates the identity with inputs from the user and actually the digital footprint of the user. Everyone uses Facebook and Google. We all realize that they actually capture a lot of data on us. They know us better than we do now ourselves. So we're sort of using the same behavioral analytics that they do. However, all the data and knowledge about the user will be at the hand of the user, and we will only use this data with the consent of the user to prove constantly that it's always the same user who is using the phone. Now, this is a key, that we are focusing on phones and nothing else, because phone is something that everyone will have, and most of refugees arrive to Europe already have them. So if we develop anything, it should be on a phone, it will be distributed, there is no actually technology needed to be deployed anywhere because phones will be available. So we're focusing on technologies that can be found in every phone, like gyroscope, GPS, camera, and some other biometric dimensions, as well as online footprints such as Facebook and different social media, also like search history and a couple of other things in the background to basically create and prove that the person is constantly the same. And we are using a reputation network system, which is basically a network of people and organization attesting for the user that yes, this user used our services, yes, this user, we provided services for this user, I met with this person. For example, a refugee goes to a camp, goes to the manager of the camp, an attestation happens, and then the refugee later and at the border can prove that he was actually in person at that camp at that time, at that moment, and they can check with the camp manager, and yes, he was there, so it's all good. And this is what we are developing. It's not only for refugees, and this is the key, that we are looking at the refugee as a perfect niche market that needs a kind of identity. However, later it can be scaled to many people. Pretty much anyone without identity today can use this service, which is roughly 2 billion people. Thank you very much. And this is my application to the fellowship.